This is Jesus. This is the way he lived his life aware of this thing. Everybody thought he was coming to deliver them from the Romans or deliver them from physical entities like Caesar or whatever. He wasn't. He loved Caesar. And I mean, to tell the Jews, love your enemies. I mean, they would have thought, my God, what are you talking about? Because Jesus understood what was going on was being influenced from another plane. And when he said love your enemies, we sort of looked at each other and thought our problem was physical. And he said, it's not. These people that oppose you in the physical are really not your enemy. It's the ones influencing them. They're really what's going on. And Jesus lived his life with this whole optic. It says here, Jesus speaking, talking to the disciples who weren't aware of this. They had no idea. I mean, Old Testament and New Testament are just two completely different levels of revelation. In the Old Testament, they didn't understand a lot of this spiritual stuff. They didn't. When Jesus came along, because he understood all that was going on within the two realms, he taught about it, he spoke about it, and we all sort of scratched our heads, and the disciples scratched their heads and thought, what? I don't understand all of that. But he was fully aware of what was going on. He came to deal with principalities. He came to deal with the prince of the power of the air. He came to deal with spiritual wickedness in high places. And going to the cross was his way of getting to it, breaking the influence of it in the physical world. In John 12, verse 31, Jesus is speaking. He says, now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. He's talking about a spiritual entity. He's talking about dealing with an entity in that arena, in that realm, that has to be dealt with. Now is the judgment of this world, and now shall the prince of this world be dealt with. The one underneath it. John 14:30. Again, Jesus speaking. Hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh and can't find anything in me. Now, I'm sure the disciples, the apostles were thinking, who is he talking about? What is he talking? Prince of what world? Caesar? The high priest? I mean, what prince? Who is he talking about? What is his optic? He's talking about the prince of this world, the prince of this world, the prince of this world. Jesus understood these two realms. He came to affect them both. John 16:11. Jesus speaking. Of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. I mean, the disciples had no idea what he was talking about. But Jesus said it nonetheless, because he was aware of why he was here. He was aware of his existence and the purpose of his existence. It was to deal with that spiritual world that is influencing this physical world. And this prince of this system, this prince of this world, is a principality. And we're going to talk about him next week. And again, I'm having to set up all of this understanding so that you'll understand why we need to put on the armor of God. And because we're not dealing, the armor of God is not to deal with what we face in the natural. The armor of God is to deal with this other parallel world. And it's how we dress ourselves and engage it. And you can't engage it effectually. You can't without being dressed, donned in this particular attire. And that's why it says that in order to be able to stand against the wiles or the systematic, methodical attacks of the devil, you've got to be able to wear this, because that's how you engage this world. It's very hard to engage effectually this spirit world and these entities without the whole armor of God. And so we will start to talk next week about the prince of this world. And for many of you, that's what you think you're dealing with. This is the world's idea of that principality or that evil or that devil, or, and I want you to know he is nothing like this. He doesn't look like that at all. In fact, when we talk about him next week, you will see he is the most gorgeous, the most beautiful angel, cherub that God ever made. He's gorgeous, he's beautiful. And he looks nothing like this. He's a fabulously beautiful, wise creature, and has a lot of rank in that other realm. And we can address him. He is defeated. He is beneath our feet. But if you go to address him and you go to deal with him, which we do and should, we do it dressed in the armor of God. And that's why we're going to talk about this and take this series up for the next few weeks together. I hope that made sense to you. If nothing else, I hope it stirred up your thinking to start maybe delving into the scripture a little bit more, to start